Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. During a deck check that takes place before game 1 in a round, it's found that Amy has one of her sideboard cards in her main deck, and one of her cards that's supposed to be in her main deck in her sideboard. What is the appropriate infraction, penalty, and fix? Okay, so first of all, if this was regular rel, and yes, you can have deck checks at regular rel, just not very common. But if this were to happen at regular rel, I would just have Amy switch the cards back and continue from there. Now, of course things get a little bit more interesting at competitive, so let's have a look at that case next. Anytime you have a situation where a player has a mismatch between their deck and their deck list, you're basically looking at one of two different infractions: deck problem or deck list problem. It's very important to understand the difference between these two because the penalty and the fix depends on which of these infractions is applicable, and they're different in different cases, even within the same infraction. The difference between these two generally boils down to what the player intended. If the deck that they presented is what they intended to play, then the deck list is wrong, and it would be a deck list problem. On the other hand, if the deck list that they submitted matches what they intended to play, then the deck has a problem, and that's what the infraction would be. In this case, it's pretty clear that Amy intended to play what she had written down on her deck list, and so therefore this would be a deck problem. Generally, the penalty for a deck problem is a warning. This is a change from previous rules, where it would have been a game loss. However, based on the state of policy right now as this is being filmed, and the information provided in the problem statement at the beginning of the episode, it is indeed appropriate to issue a warning here. Now, on to the fix. And it's basically going to look a lot like the fix that I alluded to for regular rel earlier. Just switch the cards so that Amy is playing the appropriate configuration matching her deck list from earlier, and have the players start playing. And that's not the end of the story. You see, this is one of those situations where the potential for abuse is pretty high. In deck problems and deck list problems, it's very easy to get away with these sorts of infractions, and it can be very beneficial to a player who does them. So it's generally worth it to do a little bit of extra investigating here. First thing that you want to do is take a look at Amy's story. Now, what she said makes a lot of sense. Everybody who's been playing Magic for at least a couple of years has probably forgotten to de-sideboard. So I wouldn't say that there's anything markedly suspicious about what she said happened. On the other hand, one thing that I like to hammer home for judges that I'm mentoring is that there's other ways that you could get information that might be relevant to an investigation besides just talking to the players. For example, would it make sense for Amy to have pre-sideboarded the card that she did? Is it late enough in the tournament that she might already know what Nick is playing and be in position to pre-sideboard against him? Or does it make sense for Amy to want the card that she sideboarded in that matchup? You could also talk to Nick and ask him if Amy, when she started the match, took her sideboard out and looked at it, or whether she just took out her deck and started shuffling. This can give you some valuable information about whether Amy could have seen or even manipulated this situation. Another thing that you could do is talk to the scorekeeper, who would know the name of Amy's previous round opponent. Then you could use that information to find out what deck Amy was playing in the previous round. If Amy pre-sideboarded in a flash freeze, and her previous round opponent was playing blue-white control, well, let's just say that Amy would be in for some very uncomfortable questions the next time that I talk to her. And that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again tomorrow for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.